see your camera.
We should have told them this is that would have been awesome. All right. I guess we'll get started. When Councilman Larson joins us, we'll bring him up to speed. So, if we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Auditor, could I get a roll call of the members present, please?
Councilmember Witten.
I'm here.
Councilmember Graham.
Present.
Councilmember Jessen.
Here.
Councilmember Larson. Councilmember Paparad.
Here.
Councilmember Rivas.
Here.
And Councilmember Sims.
Present.
Present.
First of all, I'd like to, on behalf of the council, extend our thank you to the friendly folks at Dune Acres for allowing us to have our meeting here in your fine establishment. This is by far one of our best views. I can say that. So we really appreciate that. It's awfully nice to get out and see you folks. With that, approval of the council minutes for July 25th, 2019. What's your pleasure? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any
Question, have we seen those minutes?
You guys seen the minutes?
Yes.
So apparently, there's a lot of yeses. You haven't seen them?
That could very well be mine, but
We add them to the email list.
We can table that.
You want, if you've not seen them and you're not comfortable voting on them tonight, we can send it over to the next one. Motion second concur with this table.
Yeah.
All in favor of tabling? So Councilman Jessen can look at the minutes. Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, so Joy, make sure that Mike gets the minutes, and if you don't get them, Mike, let me know. Take care of that. First reading.
Notice is hereby given the taxpayers of Porter County, Indiana, that the proper legal officers of Porter County, Indiana, will meet in the Dune Acres Clubhouse 1, Clubhouse Drive, Dune Acres, Indiana, on August 27, 2019, at 5:30 p.m. to consider the following additional appropriations affecting county budgets for the year 2019, and to transact any further business which might come before the council. Recorder Perpetuation Fund, $1189, hourly, $12,000. Stormwater Fund, $1182, contractual, $600,000. Park Operating, $1179, other supplies, $7,000, contractual attorney, $2,362.50. Bioterrorism Response Fund, $8119, contractual, $139,365.82. Park 2018 Fund, $8147, other supplies, $6,000, buildings and structures, $2,487.66, furniture and pictures over $106,000. Health Immunization Grant, $8205, hourly, $30,576, FICA, $2,339, other supplies, $263, medical and dental supplies, $810, training and education, $37,460, postage, $1,408, other equipment, $1,618. And from the 2011 LIRF Fund, personal services, $11,109, other services and charges, $26,823. Taxpayers appearing at such meeting shall have a right to be heard thereon. The additional appropriations as finally made will be referred to the Indiana Department of Local Government Finance, which will make a written determination as to the sufficiency of funds to support the appropriations made within 15 days of receipt of a certified copy of the action taken, signed Vicki Urbanek, Auditor of Porter County, published August 16th in the Chesterton Tribune.
Thank you, Vicki. So we're going to jump just a little bit out of order here. I would like for us to entertain the capital projects presentation at this time. Mr. McClure. Just for everybody's knowledge, we've asked for an update on our capital projects throughout the county. As many of you know, we issued a bond some time ago to do some renovations to a lot of our county buildings. And at this point, we just want to update on where we're at on all of those. Scott, where do you want to start?
Well, I think we have Derek here from Skillman Corp. 2 to answer any questions, as they're the construction manager that's been aiding us in managing the update or the ongoing project. At this point in time, the courthouse itself, the Valparaiso courthouse, is all but done. There may be a few outstanding pay apps, but that is done, and there's no additional change orders or things coming down the pike. I think there's a few things left to, some retainage and things like that to get paid out. We also have the Expo Center is done in the same format, so we're down to the 157 Franklin in North County. Both are progressing as expected. We're still looking at somewhere around in October, November of the outbuilding, the new building at the North County to be completed, and the addition on the courthouse completed. Which,
When will that be?
October, November of this year, and we're working with that date because we have early voting to accommodate. So we're looking at right now, our goal is to have early voting in the new building. The parking lot things got moved around in the last week. We're getting ready to pave a good portion of that parking lot, which will alleviate some of the parking concerns we've had up there, and then also allow, hopefully, for early voting. The goal right now is to have that in the new outbuilding. We've been working also with the trustee, who is being very accommodating if we need some additional space for the early voting. We're trying to keep it out of the courthouse at this time because there's some things that have been dismantled in there at this point. So we're angling towards that. Those two things, the outbuilding and the new addition, we're hoping to have completed again in that October, November range, which then would allow for some people to be moved around, and then the interior opened up to allow for the renovation on the inside to occur.
So in the North County complex, we've got an extra courtroom, right?
That's correct.
And you have any ideas what the intended use of that courtroom is now? I haven't been asked that question.
Right now, it's just going to be the extra courtroom. The traveling magistrates are going to use it. They're going to use it for the small claims calls. They're also going to use it for the child support hearings that occur.
Excuse me, the auditor's phone's going.
Oh, they shut this off.
I know.
But there's no, at this point in time, there's no proposal for a new judge or new magistrate to go into there. So, but it would be utilized for that. Right now, I believe they have the, Commissioner Mosier does a day or two or more in Portage, and so she would probably utilize the additional courtroom on those days.
So let's go kind of project by project, if you don't mind, on the North County complex. So are we, when the commissioners came to us originally and we had a sort of proposed projected expenditure kind of project by project, on the North County complex, how are we now with the initial projection of cost? Are we under budget, over budget? Are we right on line?
We're right on line. If you look at the bottom, we've been budgeting towards this $26,400,000 number because the remaining money is for the bridges, if you remember.
I do.
And so right now you'll see that we're about $115,006 over, but we have DC with Expo and the courthouse complete for this spreadsheet. We still have Franklin and we still have North County. In both of those, you'll see we have, I'll go North County first. We have a little over $100,000 still in contingency allowances. Those are built into the contracts. Those haven't necessarily been let to go. And we're managing those very tightly so that as those come in, we know they're there. We made them bid them so that they would be, not a change order, and so therefore we get the best price. But those are between Skillman and then Skillman coming to the commissioners. Those get released on those type of things. So those haven't, it's in the contract, but they still have to get approval to get there. And then we also have $90,000 in the construction contingency that it's not spoke for at this point in time. And then also line 216, there's $150,000 in the technology line as we still sort through that. So if we go to 157, we have just under $80,000 in the bid in the contract contingency allowances, and we have 125,000 sitting in the contingency line, and again, 150,000 sitting in the technology line. Those lines are not, especially the construction contingency and the technology lines, those are not solid numbers yet.
So the parenthetically noted 4D reimbursement.
Correct.
Can you explain that?
So because of the 4D being in this building, we have an application through the state to the federal government to have reimbursement for their build out. And this is a conservative number that we are hoping to get more, but this number is the conservative number that we've been utilizing for budgets so that we don't obviously get out in front of ourselves too much.
And we don't have an issue at this point with ongoing rent reimbursement with the 4D, right?
No, that's all taken care of. They're currently in the building.
So then, specific to 157 Franklin, there was, the old jail, yeah. So there was some talk that we were over budget, but I think maybe there was some confusion because there were some estimates on maybe building out extra, the
Yeah,
basement.
so when we were, on all the original estimates, we were dealing with building out the 4 main floors. When, with Shide Hatterley on contract, we had them go ahead and as we went through the process of designing with all the different departments that were coming in, we went ahead and said, well, let's go, why we have everybody here, let's go ahead and design what the basement would be if we were to have the money to do that. And so until we had to have a design to be able to get an estimate, and what we ended up finding was that the basement was, for many reasons, the most expensive floor in the building. And since it wasn't the part of the original plan, and there was nothing housed down there that was critical, it got taken off. But that floor alone was probably 1.6, 1.7 to do that. So at one point in time, there was an estimate that was part of some architectural notes from a meeting that said with everything in, we were 1.7 or 1.8 million over.
When there was a discussion to build out the basement, what was the thought? Did the commissioners have thoughts of something that needed to go in there?
There was requests from departments for things to go down there. And so there was, yeah, I mean, so all the things that we originally thought were going in there are still going in there. As far as the offices, there will be occupying 1, 2, 3, and 4. The difference was is that downstairs there was a want for a very large conference room. There was some want for a gym, for lack of a better term, but basically a way for, and that kind of came from the current location of 911 is sharing the gym with the sheriff's department. And so that was
1.6 million bucks, they can keep sharing the gym.
correct. And so that got scrapped off. So this is where we sit right now. We're working through this. We're all cognizant that the end of the line's 115 over, but the reason why things aren't being cut is because we still have 215,000 in contingency and 300,000 in the technology line.
All right, so refresh our memory, and for the benefit of the folks in the crowd, 157 Franklin,
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4 floors. What's the end game now for those floors? We have 911 in there, so kind of go floor by floor.
Yeah, the 4th floor will be the 911 center. One wing will be the actual call center itself. The other wing will be the administrative offices and their training room. The 3rd floor will be the prosecutor's office, including the victim's assistance office. So they'll all be, again, one wing is basically the victim's assistance. The other side is the prosecutor's office for all of their space. The 2nd floor is all of adult probation. And right now, and when I say it, it's because even I was a little shocked at how many adult probation people we actually have. And right now, they're kind of spread everywhere. So this brings them all under one roof on the 2nd floor. The 1st floor will be the 4D office. And then that would still leave the restaurant space available to turn back into a restaurant and rent.
So as we sit here today, are the commissioners anticipating any surprise operating expenses with that building that we haven't already
Not that I'm aware of at this point.
Maybe I missed it. Where are we at along in building that out?
On 157?
All the walls are framed. fourth, third, second floor. Drywall's done on the second floor, they're getting ready, or third floor. They're getting ready to drop down to the second floor, starting to drywall. Fourth floor, we got some roof work to do before we can actually start finishing hanging drywall in there. So we're waiting on the rooftop units and the curbs. So once we get all that put in place, then we'll take the roof off and then re-roof it, and we'll be watertight, and then we'll be able to start hanging drywall there. So our goal, or schedule-wise, we should be 100% done in there by early March.
So we did about 100,000 build out in the first floor to put 40 in there. How much of that are we gonna be able to use? It's gonna require some remodeling to make that space usable, or are we gonna continue to use it as it's functioning now?
So the way the building lays out, they're shaped like a L kind of. So you got one wing, and the other wing where they're in now used to be the restaurant. So the other wing is what we're converting to their permanent space.
We haven't started that yet.
No, not yet. We're working from the top all the way down. We should be framing down there probably next 2 or 3 weeks.
Is the transition gonna be easy for them then when we're squared away?
Should be, yeah.
That would be the easiest
And
one.
Scott, you can probably speak to that. Yeah, any transition problems you see in that 4D office?
No, because I think they're gonna have the easiest move.
Will they have a isolated entrance, or are they gonna be a combined entrance, or are they gonna be?
They're gonna have one combined entrance to the building, but you're gonna come into their floor, but then they will have another secured access point within there to let you into
Don't they
4D.
have to have two?
Yeah, that's the first one, and then they'll have one more after that because of the IRS regulations.
The sensitivity.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Any other questions specific to what we've heard so far?
Yeah, the question I had, and perhaps others might, I mean, the total funds versus what the cost we're looking at, it's all very, very close, and it sounds like it's all gonna work out in totality. On a project-by-project basis, refresh our memories in terms of how close we are on a project-by-project basis,
Well,
as best you can.
the two I remember for sure, I remember we were estimating North County to be 10 million on round numbers, and we're at 956. I do remember Expo was about 3.5, and that's at 3.3. I do not remember the other two numbers from the presentation of what the rough estimate was per project, but
Scott, on Expo, you said it was,
I think it was 3.5 in the presentation. I think we're still pretty close on all of them.
am I misreading the project cost in the Expo Center on the sheet then?
No, you gotta go to the bottom, 3.3.
That's 4.6.
You're over.
Oh, I'm sorry, Expo is at 4.6. I would have to go back to the original presentation. I don't,
We're over on that building, though, right?
on which one?
On the Expo, I think it was 3.5 or 3.75.
In the original estimates,
I can't be.
I remember the bridges were 2.5, and I remember Portage was 10.
Can't remember.
And after that, I don't remember those
Sure.
original estimate numbers.
That was a question I had, that you were saying that all that's left will go to the bridges. You didn't have them, they did the bridge up.
No, because the bridges are still, most of them are still in the design phase. They're not,
So we actually bonded for something we didn't have designed, am I hearing this right, or?
yes, because at the time, those bridges
Those
got
were
added.
what, 2 bridges?
3 bridges. Those 3 bridges got added because they were the worst ones that we had. And so we knew they were bad, so we added to the project and then started the design process to get those completed. One I know is one is the Old Porter Road. That construction I believe is starting to begin. The other one's 700.
One's
Do you want me to
Wagner,
give a report on that?
Sure.
the Wagner Road.
All right. Hold on. There's,
He can do the bridge.
we'll come back.
Yeah.
Second up front. So Mike is asking specific project to project, and you don't actually have that number.
From the original presentation on the estimates on how it was allocated around? No, I don't.
And so I think, to speak to your question, I think part of the idea of bonding architectural costs on and stuff was going to be there with bonds. I think we needed to do that before we got to the design stage.
Okay, I was just curious.
But no, that's a good question. I think that was a big cost for architectural, and just going to get it.
Yeah. Or engineers. Yeah, same.
So, now, let's talk about the bridges.
Okay. There was 3 bridges. I'll go through their numbers. 135, which is Old Porter Road over Salt Creek, that was a new deck rehabilitation. That bridge may be opened up this week. Then the other one that we have going to is 126 at 700 North over Salt Creek, just east of 149 there. That is under construction, and that could be open in 2 weeks. The one that's kind of been held up is Bridge 84. That's on Sigler Road. It's west of the town of Hebron. It's over a branch of Dog Lake Ditch. The design is complete on that, and we are trying to purchase some right-of-way on that. We are hoping that goes out to bid for construction. We're thinking October, maybe November, that it will be going out for bid.
What bridges do you have on the horizon after these?
After these, we just completed Bridge 208, that's in Sherwood Forest over Lake Louise. That was a deck overlay. Wagner Road is a deck overlay that we did, and it's also painting of beams underneath the new abutments. That should be open this week. We have a bridge on West Street just outside of Valparaiso that might go out to bid later this year. Bridge 62 over Kankakee River. We're in the right-of-way purchases phase of that, or right-of-way acquisition phase. That's a federal aid project. That's set for letting with NDOT in March of next year on that.
There's no issue with the state and the whole Kankakee River renovation and...
Not for bridges.
No.
That's not a bridge issue.
Okay. I'm sorry about that.
We have one Brummett Road Bridge over Little Calumet. That's under design right now. That's going to be set for construction in 2022. Mineral Springs Road over Little Calumet River is in design phase. That's going to be set for construction in 2022. Smoke Road over Jones Ditch. It's about 650 south, 675 south on Smoke Road. That's set for construction in 2022. That's in design phases right now. We're going to be approving contracts for Waverly Road in the town of Porter over Little Calumet River, hopefully at the commissioners meeting in September, along with 131, which is 200 west over Damon Run, which is about, say, 900 north roughly. Those two bridges are set for construction in 2024.
73.
Oh, Bridge 73, that was the one that we have closed. It was washed out during the heavy flooding of the Kankakee River. On that, we are going to be reviewing RFQs for the construction on that and giving a recommendation to a consultant on Bridge 73, probably October meeting of commissioners.
All right, thank you. On Bridgewood. Okay, let's put that. So any other questions on these projects? I guess what we'll do, Scott, maybe is for, certainly, if you could get from the original estimates, maybe we can do an overlay or comparison for our next meeting. So because Mike makes a good point, we're pretty good overall, but if there's been some changes project to project, certainly these guys would probably want to know that.
Sure.
Any other questions on this? Specific to any of the projects? Bob?
On 157, that's what we're doing.
That's it.
What's the total before it's completely done next year?
March of 2020.
Sylvia, any questions?
No.
Mike?
I know at one time, wasn't the base we talked about for the voting machines?
Oh, that's the story.
I thought that
They
was,
really were. Is it going to be at least
No.
watertight?
It's, the basement in 157 is watertight, but the
Okay.
voting machines will stay where they're at,
okay.
Which
Currently.
is? Where
in the
is it?
admin building,
Oh, I thought it was.
but in the parking garage.
Right.
In the parking garage?
Yes.
So wet and all that?
It's not wet.
No.
It's heated, it's cooled, it's
Okay.
I thought
been
that was coming.
dealt with. Yes, they're staying there. I know that because I know we had to move the shelving around to make the machines work compared to the old machines. And the issue of heating and cooling and water was dealt with then.
Okay.
So that's where they're at.
Mike, do you have any other questions? Chairman?
No.
Greg? Good. And Jeff? Thank you, Jim.
I just, like you said, the next meeting, to have that overlay.
Nice job on the projects.
So far, so good. I mean, this is awesome.
We're excited to get some of them, two seem to be done, or maybe a few pay apps to go, but they're done, and then finish up these two. And so hopefully, because I know that early voting will become a bigger and bigger issue. The idea is to, if you've been past Porter County North, they have moved the fence back. They started to grade, and I think where are we at on paving the half the lot?
Next week.
So
So early voting's like October 9th, 10th.
So we've got the parking lot pretty small for the last week, and that's because they're gonna pave hopefully next week, at which time we can move to this parking lot, which will be more spots and obviously paved, and that's why we're, with an eye towards early voting, we're trying to make sure that that's all accommodated.
For the public that hasn't been to our projects, we encourage you guys to get out and visit the expo center and stuff, 'cause it's really a beautiful model.
You can see most of the Valpo courthouse from the street, the windows and the tuck pointing, and doors and the landscaping and things like that, the parking lot. So most of that you can see on the outside.
All those buildings have been almost 20+ years of really neglect.
And the other thing inside the courthouse would be all the public restrooms, would be the big upgrade there too. So,
Yeah, and this is all funded by a bond that is being funded through CEDA. So this isn't increased taxes. It's, back many years, your county tax rate has gone down. So that's quite an accomplishment. All right, awesome. Thank you, guys. Okay, so the first thing, or the next thing on our agenda is general courts. Judge Bradford, he called me today. He was unable to come. He had a last minute shift that he had to go deal with. If you may recall, at budget time, he indicated that he probably wouldn't have enough for the law books. This is the inevitable request that he anticipated coming. He's requesting to transfer $10,000 from jurors' expenses to his law books. What's your pleasure?
Second.
A motion and a second on the transfer. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Joy, would you let Judge Bradford know that we
Yes.
approved his request? Development and stormwater. First thing out of the gate is a stormwater fund, additional request, $600,000 contractual to cover stormwater projects for the remainder of the year.
Motion.
Second.
You guys have anything to add? Questions?
One question in terms of this.
So is this specific projects, we just kind of guesstimating?
Well, we do have about 10 miles of ditch bank work that we're going to do this fall, and then 2 other major drain tile reconstruction projects this money is going towards. So, yeah, there's already a number of projects.
Where's the drain?
We are continuing our work on Ludington Arm 10, so that's 375 south and 250 west. And then we've got, the other one will be another arm of the Henderson ditch. I forget which arm number, but northeast of Hebron. And then most of our ditch bank work that we're planning to do will be in the north half of the county, which is where we did our vegetation management or spraying earlier this year, so we're going to get in and take care of a lot of that brush that we killed earlier in the year.
How many culverts do we have left to replace? People call me about those.
We have a lot of culverts that need replacement, that need attention. So we are working our way through that list. So when our interns did the initial assessment back in 2017, there were probably 400 plus that needed attention. between what the highway department's done, between what our department's done, we're working our way through that list. I couldn't really give you the exact number of how many more we need to still, there's still work. needs to be
Yeah, can
done.
you, I mean, if you have that list,
Yeah.
I've asked for it before, maybe you could give me
Sure.
kind of, a list of what the culverts you've replaced.
Yep.
But more importantly, what's left on the list to do.
Yeah, we can give you sort of a
Once in a
status,
while.
yeah, status update.
That would be great.
Sure.
Yes, sure, Bob.
I'm concerned is, on the fund report, you still got a ditch fund for about $1 million.
Correct.
And I know that's broken apart by ditches.
Correct.
What, I assume when we put the stormwater in, that you were going to supplement Dan's ditch with a little bit of money from the stormwater and use up that fund and get rid of it.
We are.
Okay, you still
But
have $1
it's
million.
specific to the particular ditches. And to give you an idea of some of them that have accounts, Crooked Creek is one, and I know Mike is working on projects with Crooked Creek. Crooked Creek also happens to be very protected by the DNR as far as that, because it's also where they have trout releases. So we're working at it, we're doing things on it.
No, I was referring to the $1 million. What's the plan? Because you're gonna, once that fund,
Yeah, so-
once them ditches are down to zero, you're gonna close that fund out, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. We have already closed one down. There's the one that's.
So it's on your radar?
Yes.
Okay,
it
I know
is.
when we are.
It is.
So by next year, the fund report will show zero?
I wouldn't say that.
Well, to be honest with you, Crooked Creek South is a ditch fund that has a significant amount of money, and I think a couple $100,000. Reeves Ditch still has a couple $100,000. Crooked Creek needs work, Reeves Ditch, we're waiting till a significant project need presents itself to be able to spend that money out. So we know that money's there, and as project needs present themselves, that's what we're gonna spend that money on. But it's, a majority of that money that you mentioned is locked up in several large ditch accounts.
Because I thought the goal was to eliminate that.
There were two ditch
Make it
accounts.
easier on the auditor.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it was 2,600 and 2,700, I think it was.
Yes.
One of those has been zeroed out, or has very little money.
It's on your radar, that's all I want to make sure.
Yes. it
Well, and to
is.
be more specific, there won't be any dollars of stormwater spent in that ditch until that ditch fund has been
Well, I thought
depleted.
we talked about joint venture, a little bit of stormwater money and use
Yeah,
that ditch.
exactly. But if
zero them out.
If Reeves Ditch has $100,000 and it's got a $400,000 project,
We use that money.
we use the
We use that
$100,000
money
first.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen,
Yes.
Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Paparad,
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas.
Yes.
Councilmember Sims.
Yes.
And Councilmember Witten.
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you very much.
Sheriff. So, the first thing out of the gate here, or the only thing, a couple of transfers, $17,000 from motor vehicles to other mobile equipment to purchase a John Deere ATV. And then transfer $45,000 from motor vehicles to other equipment to purchase some tasers, holsters, batteries, and supplies.
Motion.
On both transfers, I assume?
Yes, sir.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Highway, MVH. We have a transfer request for $30,000 from lease payments to motor vehicles to trade in and purchase 5 new supervisor and foreman F-250 trucks and snow plows to speed up snow removal and reduce them. Much pleasure.
Second?
We have a motion and a second discussion.
I'll do 20,000 because we talked to Enterprise today, we finally got the numbers. And Enterprise can put the snow plows and everything on them for a heck of a lot less.
So you want to amend
We
your
don't have to
question?
maintenance, we don't have to buy our own plows, because if we were to purchase the truck, we had to buy our own plows and things like that.
Now, Bob, you had a lot of questions about this when it first came.
No, I'm fine.
Have you gotten your answers?
No, I'm talking about, you getting decent stuff? I mean, they would need, you're specing the plows and that?
Yeah, they're Western plows, that's what they'll be outfitted with upgraded lights, and that actually comes with the strobe lights too.
Is there additional exposure because we're using those for plow vehicles? I mean, are we additional liability exposure, additional maintenance exposure?
Not any worse than my Ford Explorer.
I mean, you may drive like a maniac.
Yeah.
Only had a couple of accidents.
Scott, do you want to speak to the liability question?
From a liability standpoint, no. We've gone backwards and forwards with Enterprise on the issue of putting plows on them. That was something that they proved to us. They've done many other places before we made that jump, so
It figured in the price.
it is.
So 20,000 is the number that you are asking for. So he's asking for 20, not 30. So the motion and second concur to amend to 20,000?
Yeah.
And for clarification, we're not actually purchasing these trucks, right? So if we can get that up, or.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get
The only other point that I'd make on that is I'm still anxious to see an overall county vehicle list in terms of who has them, what departments, how are they used, and talked about that a couple of meetings ago, and I still have not yet seen that. So I don't know who is the holder of that master list, but for my benefit, perhaps others. We talked about vehicles a lot, we paid for them, we lease them. If we could get a list, that would be great.
So maybe we could ask for two things. One is a list of all of the vehicles that we insure, and then maybe a list of all the vehicles that we own. And as much as it seems like those numbers might, or those lists might match, let's just make sure.
And who's authorized to drive, and what are,
Finally?
who's authorized to drive, and what are the parameters surrounding the use of the vehicle?
So let me ask you a question, Scott. Who would be best to generate that list for us for our next meeting?
Vicki?
We maintain the fixed asset list and we have that available.
But he's asking for
But we
who's
don't
authorized to drive.
have, we don't have that.
Do we have to go department by department?
Ray, you still have a list from your predecessor that could be refreshed?
Yeah, we can get it.
So, facilities was the last department to have the list of vehicles by department.
It's like the Da Vinci Code, man.
They were the clearinghouse to keep track of who had vehicles and who, in what department, so we can refresh that. That will then tell you who's driving them, and then I believe as part of that list, we can add who's can use them, and I can then provide the requirements for driving. There's one set of rules for highway, and there's one set of rules for everybody else, and
So here's what I'd
most
like-
of those are coming from insurance.
Here's
that
what
we
I'd
had
like to do.
adopt.
Here's what I'd like to know. So pull that together, or get somebody to pull that together. I'd like it for everybody before we start our budgets. So that would be September 16th, I think, is our first reading. So if we could get that, if there's an issue, just let us know. But I mean,
No,
that would be good to know going into our budgets, what we're looking at for.
the vast, not a problem. I mean, as you're probably not going to be surprised, the vast majority are at the sheriff's department.
Yeah, as expected. So that would be awesome.
In our new handbook for HR, do we have a limitation on the vehicles, what their purpose for, what the occupants can use those for, and the actual destinations that they can travel to? Is there a specific requirement in there for that?
It's gotta be a policy. somewhere.
Yeah, I think there's a policy. I can't recite it off the top of my head, but yes, there
Let's see
is.
if we can dig something. I mean, I know there's a policy on the sheriff's department. I
There
don't
is,
know.
definitely at the sheriff's department.
Okay, very good.
All right, so we have a motion, amended motion, second for $20,000. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you very much. Nice job. Thanks for the weekly reports.
Health Department. How's the Health Department?
Very well, thank you.
Healthy. See, I opened you guys up for it. All right, so let's start with the Health Fund. We have a few transfers, $14,000 from rebinding records, data processing, $2,000 equipment rentals for data processing, $7,500 from postage to data processing, $4,800 from maintenance agreements to data processing required to upgrade for environmental foods and vital records. Start with those. What's your pleasure?
Motion on that.
And a second. All right. Discussion. Go for the question. You can.
Is this all been run by IT?
Yes, it's not that we have ideas.
Okay, that's right.
So what were you going to say?
Just going to explain why we have to do
please
this.
Go for it.
So pretty much what it is that there's a new program, Windows 10, it's going to take over. We need to find programs that work with Windows 10. And so we have to search out, we did, and we found the programs.
Awesome. So does IT have anything to add to that? Everything's fine? No issues?
I think it's great, actually, this is very good, because everyone, at least within 3 of the departments, will be on the same platform. So that allows replacing software, I had written up a couple of reports, and I think Joy had passed them out to you folks. A couple of reports, and some of the software we're using in there is close to 20 years old. So it's just time.
We don't have anything operating 7 anymore, do we?
I'm sorry.
We don't have anything operating 7 anymore, do we?
No, we have to move to Windows 10. 7 is
Yeah, there's no security updates or anything else.
I'm sorry.
There's no security updates or anything else for it, so.
Not after January 14th, correct?
Just about every county around us has been hacked.
Yep.
Yes.
So we have to be careful. And just along that vein, with the recent hacking of Lake County, we've had discussions with the commissioners and the county attorney to ensure that, Jeremy, you initiated these conversations to ensure that we are as safe as we can be.
Or we have a lot of Bitcoin.
We don't have Bitcoin.
Well, you may have to shake some of it out, Jeremy, but I know where to come to get it.
So we've got a motion and a second on these transfers. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so bioterrorism grant fund, $139,365.82 to contractual bioterrorism grant.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second, I assume. Sylvia? Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Jessen.
Yes.
Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Paparad.
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas.
Yes.
Councilmember Sims.
Yes.
Councilmember Witten.
Yes.
And Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
7-0.
And then lastly, the health fund immunization grant, a bunch of additions. Motion. Motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Paparad.
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas.
Yes.
Councilmember Sims.
Yes.
Councilmember Witten.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yeah.
And Councilmember Jessen.
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Parks and Recreation. Let's start with the Park Operating Fund, an additional $7,000 other supplies for program supplies for the remainder of the year. Additional $23,6250 for legal fees for ongoing litigation. Lawyers. What's your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Discussion on either one of these. So we have ongoing litigation that we're dealing with.
Actually, I understand now it has been resolved.
So you don't need it?
No, I did.
Well, pay the attorney, do we win or lose?
That's a difficult question to answer.
Well,
I'll say win.
We lost, we don't have to pay.
That doesn't really work that way. Speaking on behalf of the law environment.
Yeah, I know.
The young lady that.
That's why I wanted to go to detail.
How much, your question on 39,510 contractual attorney, how much has been spent in that account this year?
That's a good question. What did we budget in there? What's left?
We budgeted 0. Yeah, we didn't anticipate that we were going to be going to court this year.
Is that true, Vicki? We started this year with anticipating 0 for the contractual
No, we have
attorney?
legal fees.
Yeah, legally.
In our general fund, this is coming out of our non-reverting fund, so we didn't budget anything in the non-reverting fund. So we had an additional allocation for the first quarter invoices, which you approved. These are for the second quarter invoices.
It's on page 1.
So that brings up an interesting question. Do we have money in the general fund to pay legal fees out of that?
Why the park board asked to bring it out of the non-reverting fund instead of the general fund? Because previously this board has consistently asked us to pay for things out of the non-reverting fund rather than the general fund. I'd be happy to shift it to the general fund, but historically.
And we would be happy to tell you no.
So, yeah, generally that's how it works. I come and bring something out of the general fund and you tell me, well, don't you have money in your non-reverting? And I say, yes. And you say, great, pay for it out of that.
So the budget session, we'll have to remember to zero out the general fund attorney line item.
Right.
That begs the question, what's in that for the general fund? What was budgeted and what have we spent?
I don't think we printed it out.
Bring it, it wasn't on the.
12,500 is what was budgeted, and that's what's consumed. So we pay.
So you've already spent that.
We pay for the full year. That's for the retention of the park board's attorney, correct?
Oh,
So you
I got it.
pay in advance
Correct.
for the year?
Yeah.
And to answer your previous question, there is nothing left in the appropriation in the levy 79 fund.
And there was nothing to start.
None to start, but there was an additional appropriation during the year, and that has been spent.
Thank you.
Is that on the same days, Walter?
Correct.
No problems in life that can't be handled with simple litigation.
Do you have your card out?
It's not official, but the case has been resolved, so we anticipate that we'll get some form of.
You don't have to go anywhere. Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. Okay, so any other questions on those two additionals? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Paparad?
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas?
Yes.
Councilmember Sims?
Yes.
Councilmember Witten?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
And Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
7-0.
Okay, and lastly, we have a few additional requests, part of 2018 fund, Land and Water Conservation Fund. What's your pleasure with these?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on all three additional requests. Any questions? Expect not. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rivas?
Yes.
Councilmember Sims?
Yes.
Councilmember Witten?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
And Councilmember Paparad? 7-0.
Before he goes, that concert was unbelievably awesome. Los Lobos and the Prairie Magic. I'll tell you what, there was, 600 people plus there?
I think we broke 800.
800.
County, yeah. Wow.
It was amazing. People were having fun. It was an unbelievable spectacle to see people enjoying one of our awesome parks, and really, it couldn't have been run better. And the weather was just awesome. But I just want to, I think sometimes our parks go a little bit off the radar, and this is definitely something that it was just, everyone needed to know about how awesome it was. And yeah.
About 20% of our ticket holders were from Illinois, so.
That's cool. That's cool. But
Yeah.
congratulations. That was an awesome thing. Great job.
A lot of team effort in that, thank you.
Have a good evening. Recorder. And you were sitting back in that rocking chair, they were sleeping. Oh, more comfortable than these steel ones. Grandpa Jones back there. All right, so we have, let's do the $12,000 additional appropriation request for hourly wage account for remainder of 19.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Self-explanatory, I believe. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sims?
Yes.
Councilmember Witten?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Paparad?
Yes.
And Councilmember Rivas?
Yes.
7-0.
And we had that tabled additional request.
We did. I had asked to be taken off the agenda today for that. We still don't have all the information to present to you guys, and I wanted to be able to do it all in one shot and try to put that issue back.
It's my understanding you guys have had some discussions with Don and
That is
county
correct.
attorney and kind of working through some
He's
issues.
given us 13 bullet points that he was suggesting, and as of today, we were at agreement with 12 of those. So we are in.
Depends on
we
what
are-
that 13th one
We
is.
are learning some more information about some of the other technology, and believe that 13th one is probably going to be agreeable to us, and I don't foresee at this point.
So we'll just leave it on the table. We'll just leave it on the table.
Right.
If anytime, you know, you want to bring it back up, it's fine.
That sounds good.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Council, $500 transfer. That's for the request, yeah. I won't do that. And, but I will answer every question. We have a transfer of $500. Motion in a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. 911. this is one that we put on later because it has become a pressing issue. It seemed like it couldn't wait, so that's why you got this later than usual. Add on. Scott, why don't you just give us the bird's eye view and then we'll.
Yeah, well, the reason I view is that we currently have two positions that one is roughly 97,500 salary spot. One position is a 75,000 and change salary spot or slot. We would like to change that to one salary spot.
So let me just, I'm going to ask a quick question because I think there was some confusion. So when the last time the commission did a national search, they came up with a candidate, ironically in Valpo, and so that person was at the top.
Correct.
And then there were two, for lack of a better word, assistants or underlings, one that was EMA and one that was 911, correct? So we had 3 spots.
Correct.
So at that moment, what was the top spot pay?
The 97.5.
What was the EMA pay?
I don't know.
Vicki,
I
do you know
know
that
the
question?
director is
I've got my
75.
salary
And I'm
ordinance.
using 2019 numbers.
Right.
So current numbers. So that's 97.5 for the change and 75 and change.
78,957 was EMA director.
What was that again, sorry?
78,957
That was EMA.
EMA, correct.
And then the top guy, the 911 grand poobah, the guy that was the big chief,
Covering both of them, eh?
the guy that's over the top of those two.
97,344,
And then what, 911 was 75.7?
and the director was 75,712.
So the 75,712 and the 97,344 would be collapsed down to one position. And I believe we proposed that 93. And that position would only be over 911, and the EMA would continue to be under Mr. Bell.
They both answer the commissioners.
Correct.
Nobody in between.
Correct.
All right, so I'm going to ask the next question. So I know that the commissioners had somebody in mind for the 911 position, right?
Correct.
And it's my understanding that the person is not residing in Porter County this time.
Correct.
And is there any indication that this person will move to Porter County in the near future? Let's just get it out there.
No.
And where does the person
And to be clear, has there been overtures that they would consider that and that would be something that they would look at? Yes. Is there a hard and fast time or date? No.
So I just want to say, and this is just my perspective, and I don't know that anybody would agree with me, but I mean, when the reorganization and the national search and we found this person in Valpo, I had great concerns, first of all, about the person for Valpo and that of being a fit. Turns out it wasn't. But I also had some concerns later on when I realized that the 911 director was living out of county. But there was a lot of indication that that person had some inclination to move into the county. There were some various dates that were set, but that person never moved to the county.
Correct. No.
So my concern is this, and by the way, I understand that the market is tough. I understand that it's an employees market right now for 911 directors, or so it would seem, based upon the results of our last national search. But I have great concerns about the director of our 911 directing 911 from out of state. I have a lot of concerns about that. Now, maybe circumstances dictate that we don't have another choice, but I'm really concerned about that. I mean, that is a pretty critical position to be operating from right now. So I would be feeling better about that if there were some date certain, like this person's going to move in 6 months, this person's going to move in 3 months. Of course, that would lead us to the question of what happens if we don't. But at this time, you can't indicate that.
You cannot.
What my concern is on this is I don't feel like they're buying into the I have a lot of concerns about this too, so.
I don't know this guy for you, so it's a guy, right?
It is.
How many directors do we have the last time?
Why would you assume it's a guy, Bob? We don't hire.
I can't say that.
What do you assume it's a guy for? Most of the dispatchers are female.
I sure do.
Right.
I don't know. Okay, how many 911 directors do we have in the last 10 years? Five? I mean, the average lifespan is 2 years.
But they don't die.
What?
They don't die.
Well,
They just live.
job expectancy is 2 years. We expect somebody to pull up roots if they, I mean, I don't know if we can expect, I mean, I don't know if it's realistic to expect somebody to pull up roots for a job. The average job expectancy is 2 years. I don't know if I would you, Dan?
So, can I maybe build upon that a little bit? Can I build upon, I think maybe where you're going?
Here we go, Jeremy. I just could tell. Come on.
Well, I'm just curious.
Where do we find this person? Was this a part of the national search? Was this like
Yes.
number 2, number 3, number 4?
Number 1.
This was number 1.
Correct.
And we skipped over number 1 because he wouldn't.
Yeah, right. The first time.
First time.
He was offered the position, right?
Correct.
But he was offered the position, but he wouldn't commit to moving. For lots of
So
reasons.
this was our first search.
Correct.
So where I'm going with it is then, you know, the life expectancy you're asking, Bob, you said, I mean, is there no interest from within? We have so many women, it is predominantly a woman, I guess, profession in there. None of them can climb that ladder within and take that task, that know that room, that know the women in that room, that know our officers, that we're grabbing somebody from across the state line. I mean, is there no interest, or are you gonna tell me there's no qualifications? I highly doubt that. But
So we have a job description requirements, right, Scott?
We do.
To Jeremy's
Did any
question.
apply? Were they applied?
There's been, to mine, at least 2.
I was on that search committee, so I didn't go through
You're talking about the first time?
that.
I mean,
For me, the idea of where a person lives, I mean, I think it would be great to have them in Porter County. That makes perfect sense. And you think for their job they'd want it, but even more importantly than where they live, as concerned as I would be that if wherever this person is now, if we're not more specific about it, he could move further away. I mean, so it seems like there might be a benefit to having some sort of parameter in terms of where this person is located or how quick he could get to the county if necessary. And I think a bigger question than where he might live is really what the expectation is on the job. Like how it's my understanding that the most recent guy we had did not live in the county, and for traveling purposes and all that, it was necessary to, or in his mind, to report to the office 4 days a week. That'd be a bigger concern of mine. I mean, I don't care where you live as long as you're there every day, and you're there in the morning, and you're there at night, and you're available for any and all emergencies.
And that expectation has been addressed on this potential.
So Mike, I would agree with you if the person lived like in Hope or in Mission City. So the only reason I bring up where they live is in the event of an emergency.
Sure, no, I can take completely. I understand, but I think the bigger issue really is what the expectations are in terms of how many hours they're going to work and how many days they're going to report to the office. Because what happened previously, that shouldn't, we can't allow that to happen. And if there's parameters that have been set for him in terms of what the expectations are there more? Can you elaborate on what those expectations are that have been laid out to him?
Yeah, I mean, it's every day, 5 days a week, to be here, to run the center, to be available day and night for whatever may occur, and
How long will it take this guy to get here?
Yeah, can I ask what state?
He lives in Illinois. What, do we have an idea? It's not.
I think it's 50 minutes.
See, that concerns me.
The other question is, Scott, do we have an industry standard that we looked at? I mean, everyone relocates today. You look at superintendents of school corporations, a lot of them move from other areas to take over, the charge of running the school corporation. Do we have an expectation that would be, because, they'll give them, okay, we'll give you a vehicle allowance for that first year, but you're on your own that second year, we need you in the community. Is that something that we've discussed, or we're approaching that? I mean, I would concur with the rest of us that we do have a real problem, because that position is so instrumental in protecting our people, that I would hope that we could have some kind of issue to address within the next 6 months, 9 months or something, where we would say, we want the job, we really want you to locate to our campus.
But I think, Scott, you're indicating that
This
this is not in the cards.
It's not the cards. I mean, he was the first choice out of that committee that you were part of.
Yeah.
The job offer was given then.
His qualifications are stellar.
And he was number one out of that committee in testing for a reason. And we attempted the first time, and the first time I will say that everyone had the same concerns, and that's why we backed off and went to the second choice on that list. And now here we are. So that's the issue. I will tell you, if you remember back to when you were on the search committee, we did get interest from other places, Colorado, Wisconsin, Washington State, Arizona, but the problem is that the salary requirements were, instead of in the 90s, we were in the 150s. And so is there to some extent a needle being threaded here that if this position was at 135 or 140, do I think we could go on the market and require that residency or move happen? I do. At 90 or less than 100 or less than 125 or less than 130, do I think that's as easy? No. As far as moving from within, the problem is that, I guess in a nutshell, what I would say is we've had a center that's had 5 directors in 10 years. How well do you think the mentoring process has been in the administration that would allow someone to be able to take the reins? That's part of the issue. And is getting it stabilized and getting it to run correctly. And at the end of the day, our biggest issue is staff.
So in the round 2 search, did we have an expanded national search again, or do we rely on previous?
We relied on that one. Now it's been posted and we've been receiving resumes since then.
I'm wondering, would it be beneficial in a round 2 search to have an expanded search, a new search? It's 2 years later. We're taking the salary, which we advertised at that time at $75,000, or we ended up giving the person $75,000. Now we're saying we're willing to give them $93,000. Would that make a difference? Would someone would that expand the interest? Or would that potentially get someone more likely to move in?
The only thing
At
that
93 or 95 was that the question?
Yeah.
That's right, that's the other issue.
Well, hold on, I want to hear the answer to that question.
I mean, obviously, I don't know for sure unless we did, is that reading the tea leaves, I think that we would get interest. However, I'm not sure that that salary level would be enough to move someone here. Because the other issue we're undoubtedly dealing with is that, it's the issue that Bob was touching on, is that you have to, if you happen to be a hypothetical man or woman living in Wisconsin that would like this job, you have to come here, move whoever your family may consist of, to a position that has gone through about every 24 months. There's been an issue. And so here we are 10 years later and we've had 5. And
I would say that if a person is to move to the county, get engaged with the county, they'd be that much more likely to be successful.
And our 5 that we've had were all here. Some from within.
Yeah, but the last one, I gotta be honest with you, the last one was a head scratcher to me. All right, it just seemed to be a bad fit right at the start. So that was almost like a contract to fail.
Will they be on probation? I mean, will they be under somebody to watch for 6 months? I mean, scrutiny.
I would say that this new one is, this office has had some issues that as the technology demands have increased and the problems out there don't seem to go away. I mean, the nice thing is that the state that the center is in now is in nowhere near like it was 2 years ago. I'm happy to say it's better, okay, which is really good. But
So the time frame is 2 weeks roughly, right? I mean, a little more than 2 weeks before we end, without someone in that position.
You mean we're down where we have to have someone in 2 weeks?
I thought it was longer than that. Isn't there?
right now, our current director will be leaving September 13th.
I have a question. Why don't we try, being the only woman here on the council, is there no women that are applying for this? Nobody, there's not a female that's even
There's been a
qualified?
female applied.
They don't qualify? We tried 5 men, and it's not approved. I don't know. I'm just thinking, what's the problem?
I think what she's trying to say too is in that room, it's dominated by women who run that communication center. That's vital.
But this candidate knows the situation with all these women, correct?
No.
I mean, in the process of...
Let me stop you right there before you go.
Now, wait a second. What I mean is, the person that is interviewing understands that there's a lot of women in this role that will be underneath them. Correct?
This is the first actual 911 director
And
that we've had to this place.
well, but I mean, that person knowing the situation, I'm sure there was some interview questions that said, how have you handled,
This
having
candidate
seen...
is aware of our employee roster.
Okay, and you're comfortable with the answers they gave, knowing the employees that they'll be working with?
Is he the first?
That's what I want to know. Has he worked with women? Has he supervised women before?
Yes.
Sure.
Is he our first professional 911 director? Not a retired fire chief, not a retired police chief.
Yes, he would be.
I'll make the motion to approve the 93,000.
The
Let's
other
get him in
issue,
there and see what happens.
and that coincides with the
I second.
other issue.
So the motion is the 144 on the 97, 344 to 0, and 75, 12 to 93.
Yep.
Correct? We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Let's get a roll call.
Wait a
Council-
minute, can we get some more discussion?
I thought you were done. Go ahead.
How is the supervision going to work on this individual? Is it going to be
Commissioners are going to be responsible to make sure that this works.
the group of commissioners? We're not
Correct.
allowing one individual.
At this point in time,
We can
again,
say
we're back to all hands on deck,
Okay.
where we were 2 years ago.
I just think that would be a little more,
At this point in time, again, it's 911. No one takes it any more seriously.
Right.
I mean, everyone here knows how serious it is. Everyone knows that we've got to, this is really the last department that we've kind of been on a spin cycle with. And so we need to, however much attention needs to be spent will be focused back to do that, because we don't really have a choice. In all honesty, we have to deal with the outstanding issue, which has been and continues to be staffing. That's not unique to us, however, it is our issue here. And to get it staffed, and it's not so much finding the qualified people, it's getting them through the training and getting them on the floor and getting them to stay here.
or giving them the support.
And so that's ultimately, that's where a lot of the attention, probably on the administrative side, and then on the other side of things is dealing with the increasingly complicated technical side of 911 itself. And so ultimately, I think probably some of the issues that are making this person as attractive to the point where they've made obviously a contingent offer would be the fact that we believe that this individual has the experience of managing like-kind centers, okay, from a staffing roster point of view, and also dealing with the technical side. So we're hopefully getting both of those things.
What, Scott, what assurances can we get from the commissioner's office to say that this person will be held accountable, and would be no different if he or she lived in Porter County versus Lake County versus Illinois, and what sort of, because I think the oversight and supervision is something that is critical in this whole process, and up until now, there hasn't been enough. And so I don't want to get to a situation, and if we made some guidelines to say you're going to work Monday through Friday at the office to start, that'd be top of the list. And then there's certainly expectations in terms of number of hours and responsibility and oversight, but it obviously needs to be much more intensified than what we've had over the last two directors. So what can we be assured that even though he's not living in Porter County,
Or Indiana.
Or Indiana.
or he's not living in Porter County, what assurance do we have that he is going to be held accountable to do the job?
Well, if he is not held accountable, then the commissioner's office will again be sitting here trying to fill the spot. So they have no choice but to do that. And I believe that the commissioner's office, because those conversations have been had with this individual and the expectations.
Yeah, but didn't they do that with the last one? Didn't they give him expectations about when he would move into the county? And didn't he not meet those expectations? And he wasn't terminated, he in fact quit. So isn't it true that the last one, we had all that? He just didn't meet them. And the issue of his proximity was an issue, to the extent that he was working 4 days a week. And I'm sure that, that's a concern.
When the weather flies. I'm just not comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable with somebody that is not familiar with this landscape over here with the roads. We're talking about 911 communication, but somebody that's never been over here, that's gonna be running the center, that doesn't give you an indication that he's gonna move over here and commute around and live around here and start understanding our different communities. And it's an important role, I think. This one is an important role in my opinion. This person should live in Porter County.
Agreed. Sorry.
I understand the situation that we got a couple weeks, the guy that's in there is leaving.
Put an interim
And we just have,
Put it in.
we're on a time crunch here.
I don't have that.
And the commissioners just we haven't done another national search. We just went back to the well on the last one. Where, by the way, his residency cut him from the list. So,
Five within from
but I understand. And the commissioners.
Do we, I guess the underlying question is, do we trust the commissioners to do the job? If he doesn't do the job, they're gonna make him a.
Well, I think we have to.
Yeah, we did it for 2 years, we'll be back here.
Let's fast forward. A month from now, he brings us another candidate that lives in Porter County. Does he get a pass because he lives in Porter County? And I don't know who this person is.
Look, I give deference to the search committee. I give deference to the commissioners. It's their job to determine whether or not
Right.
somebody's qualified to be hired. I'm not
And
questioning that.
responsible for doing their duties.
What I'm questioning is the fact, I get that. I'm just telling you, I have concerns about a position as critical as 911 director, living in another state, running our 911, living in Illinois. That concerns me. Now, normally I don't get into that stuff, as you know. I don't get into it. That's the commissions. We decide what we're going to pay them. We decide how many staff they get. We decide the benefits and all that stuff. They decide who they hire and don't hire. But I'm just telling you, in this one, it is such a glaring concern, it's a big problem.
It's our track record.
Is it a requirement for anybody working for the county to be a Porter County resident?
No.
doesn't mean we can't take it.
State resident?
You're the sheriff's department.
No. Not this.
No.
No restriction.
There's a lot of people that live in our community, commute to Chicago every day, and they're traveling over an hour, and they're making it just fine. And
Yeah, but I don't know that they're running a 911.
well, but I mean,
I think that's,
if this is somebody who is highly qualified, beyond what we've had in the past, we're worried about modern technology. Cars, they don't break down all the time. I mean, I would assume he'd have a good car. He'd be smart enough to do that. He'd know to get up early, or to beat the traffic. And I imagine if it's nasty at night, he would spend the night instead of going home and deal with that. But I don't know if he's a qualified person, and it seems like in the past there's been something wrong qualified that people have just kind of given in, and now maybe here's an opportunity to let a quality individual run the show, and hopefully it's better than it's been, and there'll be someone here for years.
I guess we either got to rely on what they're saying or not.
Well, and that doesn't mean that he
I
can't.
mean, we don't beat them up
Call for the vote.
when he wanted to hire somebody else.
Let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Witten,
No.
No.
Councilmember Graham,
No.
Councilmember Jessen,
Yes.
Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Paparad,
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas,
No.
and Councilmember Sims.
Yes.
4-3.
Best
To
of
approve
luck.
the salary change.
Good times continue.
Good luck.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
Second reading.
Whereas it has been determined that it is now necessary to appropriate more money than was appropriated in the annual county budget, therefore be it ordained, resolved by the Porter County Council of Porter County, Indiana, that for the expenses of the taxing unit, the following additional sums of money are hereby appropriated out of the funds named and for the purposes specified, subject to the laws governing the same. Recorder Perpetuation Fund, $12,000. Stormwater Fund, $600,000. Park Operating, $9,362.50. Bioterrorism Response Fund, $139,365.82. LWCF Park 2018 Fund, $14,487.66. And Health Immunization Grant, $74,474. And that concludes second reading.
Thank you, Madam Auditor. What's your pleasure on second reading?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen,
Yes.
Councilmember Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Paparad,
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas,
Yes.
Councilmember Sims,
Yes.
and Councilmember Witten.
Now,
No.
Good move.
Good for you.
attorney's report.
The only thing to report is just to ask what we had talked about at the last meeting with regard to the park board, the resolution. I don't feel that Dan.
Well, so, yeah, just to refresh everyone's memory, and Harold can carry the water on this, but we had that brief conversation about the change to the park board, and that we have the ability to appoint an elected county official to appoint that member of the park. We still maintain our two, but we have to decide, A, and I think we've already decided that we are going to choose someone and give them that appointment authority with the commissioners. But we need to get some indication as to who that person might be. And Harold, why don't you take it from there, what we're down to here.
Well, the statute is pretty general, and it says that if the council is going to amend the park board composition, they can choose to have a fifth member. You've got two from the commissioners, two from the council. They can choose to have a fifth member who's an elected official. And so presumably it's the ordinance or the resolution that the council would make if they choose to make those changes would refer to a particular elected office as opposed to a particular person. And so I think the council, if they choose to do that, needs to think, or needs to decide, because we were going to draft a resolution for the next meeting for the council to consider if there is going to be a particular office that will hold that fifth board member position.
And it seems like, so we have to do that by the end of the year, but we want to give this individual ample time to vet applicants. And so we were thinking of trying to get this accomplished at our September meeting. And I don't know if we're ready to discuss it tonight so that Harold can put this together, but or we want to reach out and discuss it amongst ourselves and get to Harold so that he's ready at our next meeting.
And I can have a resolution, if you want to do that at the next meeting, I can have a resolution ready for November.
We want to give as much time as we possibly can. You get into November, now you get the holidays, and you're trying to know what's out, people interested in being on the park board. Bob, you got a question?
So we're gonna designate, let's say Vicky. She will have appointment powers to the park. She's not our appointment.
She's not our appointment, she just gets to appoint. And it has to be a county elected official, not us and not the commission.
Yeah, the person who appoints it has to be an elected county official, and they cannot appoint a commissioner or a councilman.
So to my hopes and dreams of being on the park board was dashed once again.
If you resign, we'll put you on the park.
Oh. You're getting real close, man.
I think we can find a couple more.
So we have judges, we've got the recorder, we've got the auditor, we've got the coroner, we've got the sheriff. My only criteria is it has to be a Democrat. But that's our choices, so it's not unlimited, and we just have to decide logically, I think, what is the most seamless and the one that makes most sense.
So for my clarification, so the remainder of the year, the park board remains intact?
Yes.
And do all the members, all the appointees know that, or is it kind of up in the air?
The statute is crystal clear.
Not
It says-
our appointees know, because I told them. I don't know about the other appointees, but.
And the statute is clear that it's the composition of the board and the way it is currently
Through
comprised stays the same unless the council makes a change before the first of the year. And if the council doesn't do it, then the commissioners have the option to do that. And if the commissioners
Well, we're not
don't,
giving them,
the
we're
board
not
stays the
giving
same.
them the option.
So, just along that vein, so Harold, a point was brought up here. So our two park board members, irrespective of what their terms are currently, we will need to reappoint two people
Yes.
for effective January 1st.
And then if we decide to exercise that option, the two appointments that we have, one has to be of a different party. It's the same with the commissioners. They each have to appoint.
One communist, one libertarian. All right, so and I don't know if you guys have any ideas tonight, if you want to talk about this, any preferences?
I served on the foundation, but I think that, I think that judges have a vested interest in the park board just because they have several people that would be interested in doing things for the park, and they can appoint those people as volunteers or as an organization. So that's one of my thoughts. And I know they've had an appointment in the past, I think.
The circuit court judge had a couple.
So, yeah. But
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
The park board right now has staggered terms, I think.
Yes.
So if we clean the slate in January, everybody's terms up 4 years later?
I don't know the answer to that question.
The way the statute is written is it is a new board and they have to, the council and the commissioners have to reappoint. So presumably if someone's in the middle of their term, they potentially could not be reappointed or, couldn't finish out the term.
Or do all the terms start from zero, or let's say we don't.
So he's asking if looking forward under this new makeup, they're going to have staggered terms, and if so, how's that possible?
I don't think the statute addresses the staggered
Why don't
terms.
we,
I will look at that.
yeah, let's dig into that a little bit. But that's the issue of our two appointments. Let's think more about this fifth member. And certainly, Harold, you've gotten the message from all of us that we will be executing that authority to name someone. So we're past that question. We won't be meeting next committee. So we've got some thoughts here. And I don't want Harold to craft up a resolution or ordinance naming
Why don't you
somebody.
leave the office holder blank? And we'll decide if you fill in the blank later.
Well, if we're going to do that, we might as well just wait on the whole thing. The whole idea here is to give that person ample notice that we don't have to do it at our next meeting. We could wait till October if you want. I just kind of want you all, we want to get it done and give them a couple of months.
So bring it forward next month with a blank, and then we'll decide.
We need to figure it out among ourselves, arm wrestle.
You wait. So, all right, so Harold, why don't you get the documents together that you need, get our answer on the staggered terms, looking at the new board, and between now and the next meeting, we'll have conversations, about, strike a line through some ones that just make no sense, and then we'll see if we can't come together at that meeting. Just be ready. Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
All right. Westchester Public Library. How are you? So So Harold, you and I talked a little bit about this, so why don't you kind of just give us the Reader's Digest version of why this is in front of us?
The Westchester Public Library was originally constituted as a merger, and Lisa may be able to more accurately discuss this, between the town of Porter and
And the township.
right. And the statute, they have some funds that have been there for a little bit, that need to use to.
We have saved these funds. So we call it the LIRF fund, it's Library Improvement Reserve Fund. And they've saved over the years. I am almost a year and a half in, so my predecessor, the long-term director, saved, and my board astutely has invested, and so it's multiplied, and we have these funds to take care of the many, many projects that we have. We have 4 locations that are aged, as you can imagine. So this is the first ever request for an additional appropriation from this separate fund that we have.
And the statute that deals with additional appropriations for library boards explicitly states that the board go to the city, town, or the county physical body. It does not mention townships. And so there was a question with the library board attorney as to, would the township be the body to approve this, or would it be the council? DLGF looked at it, and their opinion was, given the, I don't want to say uncertainty, but given that the township was not explicitly named, the council was the appropriate body. And the money's there. The council certainly is a part of the levy limit that we have to look at tonight anyways, looks at Westchester's levy, and so I think for those reasons, I don't think there's anything that, I think it's safe for the council to approve that. I mean, certainly the township could approve it, but the township.
And from what DLGF has told me repeatedly, it would be the council.
Yeah.
Do we have
And
the
so-
resolution tonight?
Yes, I have copies. I mean, I sent it
Joy,
originally,
do we
we've been
have,
tabled a couple
we
of
have
times.
copies of that?
So I have-
Well, how in the world are we going to vote on something on top of that?
I didn't receive any copies, so I didn't.
Yes. I have a couple of.
Can you just share those with us for a minute so we can look at the resolution possibly? Thank you.
So so that the law that changed with respect to oversight of library budgets, does that affect them?
That's a great question, and we had talked about that as well. The oversight law refers specifically to the council funding that particular library, or creating, I believe is what the statute refers to. And the county did not create the Westchester library. It was the township and the town of Porter. So arguably under the statute, the council would not have that oversight. But there's some, apparently the state is trying to clarify that for everybody, because it's.
Per DLGF, it is. And that's, I mean, because that was my question, and the library's attorney question. But again, both times it was volleyed back to me that indeed, after my board approved it, that then I would take it to the council.
If you take a look at the statute that Mr. Harper was referring to, in order for the council to be involved in budget oversight, irrespective of this additional appropriation, you had to adopt a resolution by like June 30th of the year, and you had to...
Next year, though.
Well, it could have been this year, next year. In other words, you don't have to step into the mud unless you choose to do so. But if you choose to do so, you have to give notice to all the taxing units in the county of the hearing that you're going to have to adopt a resolution that you're going to step into the role of having oversight over library budgets. You may remember, some of you are old timers, that there was a time when all the libraries came to the council and council said, looks good, signed off on it or whatever. We got away from that, And now we're back again, but we're only back again if you decide that that's a role that you want to have. If you don't decide that's the role you want to have, you don't have to accept that responsibility.
Well, I think our bigger-
there's a trigger as well.
Yeah, it has to do with the available funds, reserve funds, or.
But there's a lot of question about when that trigger actually explodes
And
or
we're-
is detonated, because it's 150%, but we've got the 18-month rolling and we wait for the tax draws. So there are a lot of questions that exist about
We
this.
need a motion for us not to be
So
involved
let's
in
go
that.
now.
So let me ask Vicki this question, because it's not so much a question for you guys, but it reminded me. So we determined, do we know if our Porter County Library Board falls under that? Is it something that?
We don't know yet, because the word from the DLGF is that they are going to issue more clarifying guidance, and they expect, and I just heard from them today, that they expect that this guidance is going to come out after the start of the year.
So in
the
terms
only
of that,
library
we may
that
not,
they
we may
do-
not want to step in.
Right.
Yeah, we may not want, our library board doesn't want us to step in, by the way.
Right,
They
right.
made that clear.
It has been determined that there is one
Library
library system in Indiana that definitely meets the criteria. And
Yeah, but she doesn't
my,
like it.
that's my old library, Whiting, Indiana. But,
So you don't know yet,
so
it may not
we
be
don't know
touched the first
because
year.
there's,
Okay.
as Lisa said,
Do
there's
we
lots of
want
questions.
to convey to the folks in front of us that we're not going to stick our nose in there?
Well, let's wait and see if we.
I would be
So,
delighted to hear that.
so, but that's irrespective, I just threw that off as another question, but that's got nothing really to do with this. So, have you seen this Fransom resolution? Did everybody get an opportunity?
So this is our first foray into requesting from LERP. So I started small, and I'm glad I did because it gives us a chance to suss out what this means and how the process will be. And we have two projects, a sinking patio and a faulty staff door. So the tune is approximately $37,000 to pull from the LERP fund.
So, can I get a motion on
I'll make
this?
the motion. Second.
Second.
Motion is second on this, so we're doing this as a resolution, Harold?
The statute refers to a resolution from the fiscal body.
All right, because that's called a resolution/ordinance, we just be wondering.
Right.
So I assume that motion's by title only. So let's get a roll call on this.
How much is it, just quick,
Yes.
how much is in that fund
In the front.
after the 38,000 is gone?
We have approximately $8 million. Yes.
We're taking
Wow.
oversight.
I have a list of projects that suck up that money immediately.
You know what goes we can pay for $8 million?
But we're talking to the librarian, it's not,
I rescind my motion, the whole thing.
I make copies also, and really not to be facetious, I have a ton of expensive projects that need to happen, new rooftops,
Oh,
new
so do we.
HVAC,
So
so
do we. Yeah.
we can blow through, we've saved this money expressly
Yes,
for
you
the
have.
purpose.
Yes, you have.
So we have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call on this, please?
Yes, Councilmember Jessen,
Yes.
Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Paparad,
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas. Councilmember Sims.
Yes.
Councilmember Witten.
Yes.
And Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
7-0.
Congratulations on saving and making money.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Take care of it.
Do you have any other questions for us? Anything else you need from us tonight?
I believe I need your signatures
Well,
on
that's
that,
gonna
I will
happen.
take care of.
It's gonna happen real soon.
$7.5 million.
Okay, so we're signing off on that, so,
Thank you.
thank you very much. And then, Vicki, let's get to the next thing, which will be our levy limits and tax caps.
Do you want me to go up there?
Go up there.
We need to sign it in here.
Yes, it's coming your way. Go ahead, sign it.
Change the numbers.
Okay, council members, as you may recall, state statute requires that at your first meeting in August, you must review the state's estimated maximum levies and the state's estimated tax caps, not just for the county government, but for all taxing units in the county.
Westchester Public Library?
Yes, they are in there too. And rather than have you look up all of these reports yourself, we in the auditor's office have been compiling the relevant numbers for you. It should be in your packets. And so it gives you the numbers that are available online from the state reports. Again, these are only estimates, but it shows what the maximum levies are expected to be, and then what the maximum tax cap losses are expected to be. To look at the county government, our max levy is expected to go up to hit approximately $42 million. That's for all property tax supported funds, not just the general fund, but all property tax supported funds. And so while that might sound like good news, the estimated funding loss due to the tax caps is also estimated to increase to $2.7 million for the county. And you can see we put together the numbers for municipalities as well as for the schools, the libraries, and the townships. And all of this is taken directly from state reports.
What are you doing back there?
Trying to help Harold out.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Good, it's kind of over there.
Might get sunburned on it.
So, all right. So give us the long and short. So we're looking at,
Well, you're basically looking at a variety of increases in the maximum levy. That's not unexpected. The levies tend to go up every year, but the tax cap funding losses are also expected to go up.
What did was last year,
County-wide, it was about 1.9, what do you mean, 2019?
What, 50%? What, 50%? We just lost.
50%
We lost 1.9 last year, when it was 2.7.
do you understand
That's
this
the
question?
estimate, that's only the estimate.
Well, yeah.
We won't really know what the tax cap funding losses are until after we.
All right, so that brings up an interesting point, Vicki. So as we venture into our budget session for next year's budgets,
Yes,
we've all talked about this, but we know that we don't have unlimited funds.
correct.
We know that we can expect some increase to our available money, and let's say our general fund, for example. So, are we talking about around $1 million? Is that a good?
$1 million meaning that will be your increase
Yes.
that you're allowed to budget.
Yes.
Yes,
And in that $1 million, there's what, about 90,000 of mandated increases by the state. So
yes.
we're down to 900,000 and change. And as we, just as a thinking piece, as we venture into September 16th, we still have to deal with the loss of the hospital interest fund, correct?
That has been.
Budgeted
Yes.
against to the tune of about 500,000.
Yes.
So we're going to have to deal with that. And in a cursory view of the requested increases by the various departments, we are north of $2 million of requested increases. Is that
Yes,
correct?
and those requested, just a little under 2 million.
Oh,
One of those is a large item, it's pretty fixed cost also.
we have an election board in there that's a big,
Yes.
not necessarily fixed, but yeah.
Mandated
And that roughly 2 million figure that you spoke of does not include any raises or new positions or special requests. When you add those in, we're looking at roughly about a $3 million increase.
And that's before we get to any discussions about raises across the board for county employees. And a 5% raise is about $1 million, right? Give or take,
Yes,
some thousand. You don't
slightly
know.
over $1 million actually.
So 3%, 7,800.
Yes,
So this is going to be an incredibly daunting task. It's going to be very difficult budget session for us.
and just to let all of you know, we are compiling all those numbers, and we have many of those numbers already compiled. But we're going through all of the figures one last time just to make sure we're not missing any, and we will have all that available for you at budget hearing time.
Okay. Go on.
But going back to the levy and the tax caps, state statute also requires that you issue a recommendation to all the taxing units. This now takes the place of that non-binding review that you used to do a few years ago. So basically, in the past, your recommendation has been to be mindful of the maximum levies and the tax caps when preparing your budgets. And if that is your recommendation to all taxing units, I would send that recommendation out. Alternatively, we could just send out the meeting minutes to all the taxing units.
No, I think it's kind of good to send them a little,
Absolutely.
something, let them know they care. So does anybody have, and I know it seems like a real general meeting, but does anybody have a problem with us? I mean, it's not mine. It's almost got finger wagging, a stink eye. So does anybody have a problem with us doing that same, just sort of general statement? Stay within your maximum levy?
Well, it just does reinforce what the state's going to do anyway.
So, do you have a problem with that?
100% agree.
So can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Vicki, you have our.
Yes. And as I've done in the past, I've sent out this report to the taxing units after your review. It will be posted online.
And when this first started, we would get the calls from municipalities angry that we gave them the finger wag and explaining, but then along the path, they realized that they just don't care what we think because it's non-binding, so they don't call anymore. That's kind of the end result. So, all right. So, all that having been said, anything else that any of the members want to bring forth tonight? Anybody from the audience? Yes.
I just wanted to comment after Vicki's report. I'm the clerk treasurer for the town of Dune Acres. This is actually a retirement job for me. I worked for many, many years in school administration in our neighboring county. And I have to say that working with Vicki, it is like night and day. And I hope that everybody in the council realizes the job she does. Getting settlements 2 weeks before the end of the year via electronic transfer is unbelievable in comparison to what other counties are doing. And she just does a fantastic job.
Little known fact,
Thank
she
you.
was the council's budget specialist before she became auditor.
And that's where I learned everything from these.
She's awesome.
Fantastic.
Thank you for saying that, we.
Yeah.
Our problem is she's term limited.
Yes.
No, Vicki, you're not getting a raise.
Yeah, I didn't want one, but thank you, Jan. But really, it's a tribute to my staff.
They
They
might
do
get a
an
raise.
awesome
They
job.
are.
The mentoring that you do for your staff, I think should be copied at other departments.
We concur with
All right, so anybody else, anything else? All right, guys, can I get a motion to adjourn? Oh, hold on.
I'll come over here. My name is Sarah Sminiak, and I do live here in the town of Dune Acres. And I've contacted a few people, including the newspapers as of late. There's been some discussion about the status of the Calumet Trail. I'm sure that none of you guys rode your bikes over here tonight or tried to ride on the Calumet Trail to get here. But it is an ongoing concern. There is an online petition that has over 800 signatures to try to seek funding to get that trail improved. I am listening to you, and I know that budget is an issue, money is an issue, but I think you also know that there are some state grants for trails that are coming up. And the applications are opening up, I believe, in October, and I'm here to really encourage you guys to look at encouraging the county to apply for those grants. It would benefit the county in a lot of different ways to have a more usable trail. Currently, if you guys stop over there and take a look, it is dirt, not even dirt. It's not that great even for mountain bikes. I'm a runner. I've been a runner for years. I've coached cross country and portage for years. Now I live in this community. It's not even that great for running on because the rocks are so big that I have a bad knee now. I don't even like to run on it. But that's just me personally. Also, biking is difficult on there because of the puddles. If you go east of the train station, it's almost impassable because the puddles are so large. They're actually tadpoles.
Can we address that?
Well, hold on a second.
Yeah.
So, go ahead and finish.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I have
made it through there, muddy, very wet. It is not impassable, but it is not comfortable to get through. The last part, the last comment I want to make is that it is a really important part, a link into the Marquette Greenway Trail system. And at some point, I know that Michigan City got their trail approved. I know Portage is working on getting their trail put in place. It will be possible to ride a bike from Chicago up to New Buffalo. And I would hate to see that this portion, Porter County portion, to keep that trail from being an amazing trail. And it would draw tourists here with the national park and the state park, people being able to use that. It would help our county in a lot of different ways, and we could do it at very minimal costs if we are looking at applying for this grant.
So along that point, we are aware of that, and we are aware of the state grant, and we have had some meetings, myself and Councilman Sims actually had a meeting early on. We've had meetings with commissioners to talk about applying for the grant, and we do know that it's time sensitive. Right. So, and we've had conversations. Mike here, little known fact, has rode 400 and some miles on this bike. Well done.
And not on the Calumet Trail.
We like 400 some miles. So these are, so yes. we get it.
I think it's on everybody's radar.
Yes, so it's not something that's lost upon us, and so we're
We do.
And I appreciate that, and that's basically why I'm here, is to make sure that it's staying on the radar.
so good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jeff, did you have something more that you wanted to add, or is that it?
Well, I did, but, you know, I think we've addressed it. There's some engineering aspects to that trail that we're trying to look at, so there's a genuine interest in accomplishing what you want. It's just that some of the agreements that we've had in the past don't fit well with what the county would do, and would really leave us on the hook with some of that responsibility. So.
And there was some early engineering done, and some of that stuff is antiquated, so the question's been posed as to whether, how much of that would still be applicable, so.
What needs to be updated.
Yeah.
Right.
Understood.
So, okay, so with that having been said, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Yep. Second.
I have a yep and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.